So that may depend upon the then assessment of the condition by the government, right? So that has happened. See, there is an example, right? Again, say rural employment is an area where the government is paying a lot of attention to, right? And Mahatma Gandhi, earlier it was, Narega, National Rural Employment, you know, and then it was, renamed as MG Narega, right? But the governments have changed, but the policy has continued. So more funds have been allocated, right? There were critical appraisals, which have happened as far as this policy of rural employment is concerned. There were critical articles which were written by the experts, and the scrutiny and assessment of the policy happened in the media. So all these things, they happened, but the policy is still continuing, maybe at one point of time when the government would think that this policy has met its objectives to the extent possible that the government had intended. So maybe at that point of time, government may think of doing something else, or to discontinue with the policy or to merge the policy with some other policy, right? So then that's how Brewer would look at as far as the whole policy cycle is concerned, and how one can possibly understand the whole policy process, right? So that is something we can understand now. हाँ हाँ बताइए. Estimation and selection process, definitely there is a difference, right? This is what I explained also. See, at the estimation stage, you are simply comparing the cost and benefits of various alternatives which have been proposed to the government as a viable solution to the existing problem, right? So that's what the estimation part is. But selection part is you make a decision that from among the alternatives which were suggested to the government would now decide on a course of action, right? So the example that we have referred to, the government may have before it as an alternative as public private partnership, or sharing of funds between the state and union government, right? Or maybe giving direct financial benefits to the concerned students, right? But government would now this would be the estimation part, right? Wherein the government would be looking at that by choosing one of them or by choosing a combination of them, right? How the government would stand in terms of meeting its objective to provide the individual the right to life with dignity, and for which education is the most important requirement. So that's what would be the estimation part. But once the government has decided that no, now it is through the means of legislative procedure that the right to education would be made a fundamental right, that's what is the stage of selection. Now the government has taken a decision, right? So that's what is the difference. Okay, is that clear? Okay, so we can understand as far as the whole cycle is concerned in Gary Brewer's view, right? Now the next thing that I want to explain to you is about the study of Michael Howlett and M. Ramesh. And Michael Howlett, Michael Michael Howlett, Michael Howlett, Michael Howlett, right? And M. Ramesh, M. Ramesh का spelling clear होगा, okay. So what they have done, they have looked at the similar studies who have tried to study the overall policy process in terms of a cycle which would include specific stages, and on that basis they have given their own understanding of policy cycle. And in their understanding, instead of looking at the 7 or 6 stages, one can simply look at the 5 stages if one is trying to understand a policy cycle. And that's where in their understanding there would be a application part of the policy. And in the application part of the policy, possibly there would be related terms which one can associate with the concepts which would be used as the stages in the overall policy cycle, right? So that's something, that's something which may require more time than what we have for today. Okay, so what I suggest that maybe we can take up that in the next class. If you have further questions on what we have discussed today, please feel free to raise.
Yes, sir, I have a question.
बताइए.
S- Sir, in Grey Paper, we did that in first stage, other than the government, also some sections of the society or some other factors also estimate some issues, which in the further stages, government take it as a problem. So
Hmm.
that as we did in the previous classes, that all the actions were taken by the government is covered under the policies. Here
Correct,
also.
correct, correct, correct. So this, no, this is what, if you recall, towards the later part of my discussion, I did add that I want to add a caution, and that caution is that other factors, other concerned individuals, sections, groups, or stakeholders may contribute in terms of influencing or giving shape to the policy. But as far as the policy making is concerned, that is the sole prerogative, that is the sole domain of government, right? So let me again explain it with the help of the same example, right? Now, how the weaker sections of the society can study or can successfully exercise their choice in terms of opting a particular field as their career, right? So there may be various sections of the society which should be interested in terms of their in terms of giving their suggestions, or in terms of even contributing some way or the other, maybe even in terms of providing funds, right? Maybe the private institutions themselves, they would have some kind of solution to the problem, right? Or there may be think tanks or NGOs who would be working especially in this area, who would be doing research in this area, and who would be publishing their report that how actually the government can do this. There would be debates, there would be larger discussions, even in the academic institutions, right? But all these things, if you look at the scope, or if you look at the domain of the subject of public policy, right? So all these things in themselves are important in terms of influencing the decision of the government, right? But when it comes to the exercise of choice, that what should be done, then that would be decided only by the government, right? So the constitutional amendment is something which the government only can do, right? The required legislation is something which only government can put in place and eventually implement, right? So other sections, or stakeholders, they were important in terms of shaping the views of the government, in terms of influencing that what kind of policy should be in place. But when it came to the decision making and exercise of policy choice, then it was the sole domain of government, right? Okay, so maybe private players, they can provide a lot of funds, right? They can even offer that they would give education free of cost, but that would not be a policy, that would not be public policy, right? Public policy, it would become only when the government declares under the law that private institutions would provide free education to all. Now this would become a policy. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
yes, so similarly as the first stage in government providing the possible solution at the
Hmm.
initial level. So
No,
exactly
no,
in
government is not perceived first. In the first stage, what I had I had told you all, first stage, that is of initiation and invention, right? So the government is not providing solutions at that stage. What I mentioned was that along with problems, government is also trying to look at the plausible solutions at that stage. So along with problems, solutions may also exist, which the government is trying to recognize, which the government is trying to pay attention to, right? But Solution becomes concrete and choice is exercised, that what would be the course of action in terms of decision, that happens only at the level of selection, at this stage of selection. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Hmm.
Excuse me, sir.
Hmm. हाँ
Are
बताइए.
there any criticisms to Gary Brewer's understanding of policy cycle?
Yes, you see, something something is that is very common to all those models who try to study, analyze, and understand the whole public policy process in terms of the cyclical model. That would be, that would be the case with Gary Brewer's model as well. So for once, again, Gary Brewer's model suggests that there are likely stages which would follow one another as far as the policy cycle is concerned, which may not be the case, which we will see, what Holt and Ramesh have to offer in terms of their explanation. Right, that is one. Second thing, that as far as Gary Brewer is concerned, of course he is trying to look at the whole policy making aspect as a process, and they also are trying to factor in importance of larger environment, wherein the government and the agencies in the government, they interact with the outside larger environment, but still in the understanding of many, the model which was suggested by Gary Brewer, it would again be confined in terms of overall objectives by not looking at that, with what intentions the policies would be made, or say for instance the nature of the goal, or say for instance the kind of means which would be required to address the particular problem through the means of policy, right? So primarily, these are the two issues which people have identified as limitation of Gary Brewer's problem, right? Just to repeat one, that again the stages are somewhere thought to be following one another as far as the cycle is concerned. And second, as far as the Brewer's cyclical model is concerned, so the means and the nature of objectives, possibly they cannot be specified and made clear as far as the whole policy making process is concerned. So it would be only known at the stage of evaluation, or assessment. Only then possibly one can look at critically that whether the objectives that the government had, in view, as far as the whole policy making was concerned, right? So was that right, was that wrong, or what was the likely connection between the declared objectives and what actually government intended to achieve. And of course, as I told you, the means, or the kind of resources that may be employed, right, that may be employed to address the problem, right? So these two things you can add as part of the limitation of Brewer's view, right?